Protein plays important roles in every cell of your body, all of the estimated 40 trillion cells. And given how popular protein supplementation is, there's still a lot of misunderstanding out there about how much protein you actually need, especially for older folks and people who lift weights. And this makes a lot of sense since the daily requirement for protein can vary according to a variety of factors, such as, for instance, how much do you weigh? The more you weigh, the more protein you need on a daily basis. How old are you? Are you younger or are you an older individual? Do you work out regularly, or are you basically just watching TV all day or sitting at a desk? What's your health like? Depending on your health issues, some people may require more protein or less protein. So all that said, how much protein do you really need? Well, the recommended dietary allowance for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight. That's how they talk about it in the clinical studies. And that doesn't say a whole lot for us in America unless you're in the metric system. So if we do the math, this comes to 0.36 grams per pound, which most people round up to 0.4 grams per pound. Okay, so how much does this actually look like? So as you can see, when it comes to the recommended dietary allowance for protein, the more you weigh, the higher your general protein requirements would be. For a person weighing 150 pounds, this would be about 60 grams a day, roughly 2 ounces. While for a person who weighs 200 pounds, they're looking at about 80 grams of protein a day. When it comes to protein, think of the recommended dietary allowance as the minimum requirement, and while it does meet the needs of many healthy people, research tends to show that for some people, the RDA for protein may not be enough. Sarcopenia is a medical condition that refers to the loss of muscle mass and muscle strength that occurs as we get older. Sarcopenia is a complicated process involving multiple causes, ranging from hormonal declines and inflammation to poor functioning mitochondria that all result in the mostly preferential loss of fast twitch muscle fibers. These are your strongest and most powerful muscle fibers, and this is one of the reasons why, as we get older, we tend to get weaker. Now, while sarcopenia is thought to be a condition of quote-unquote older people, research shows that sarcopenia begins when we are younger, as young as 27 years of age by some accounts. Resistance training, strength training, can definitely improve sarcopenia, but might there be something else that can help as well? Protein supplementation improves muscle mass and physical performance in undernourished, pre-frail, and frail older adults randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial. Here we've got 120 frail and almost frail adults. They're having trouble doing their daily activities and they are not eating very well. And they're given different amounts of protein, either 0.4 grams per pound, that's the RDA, or they're given 0.5 grams of protein per pound or 0.7 grams of protein per pound. And they consume this amount every day for 3 months. Well, after 3 months, these researchers discovered that the people who consumed 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight not only showed improvements in muscle mass, but in addition to that, these people could walk faster as well. So their muscle mass just didn't improve. This also translated into real life benefits. And remember, all this occurred without any exercise. That's right, all these people did was eat a little bit more protein each day. And this is significant because according to the dietary guidelines for Americans, about 50% of women and 30% of men over the age of 71 do not consume enough protein. So for older folks, they may need more protein than is recommended by the recommended dietary allowance. Research also tends to show that people who perform resistance training exercise, that's strength training, may also benefit from somewhat higher amounts of protein too. So, how much protein might a weightlifter need? Well, if we look at the RDA for protein and compare it to the recommendations of other organizations, we can see that the recommendation for strength trainers runs from about 0.5 to about 0.9 grams per pound. And while that sounds good, is it possible to zero in on what might be a more appropriate amount? Enter this research paper, where the reviewers looked at 49 previous investigations and concluded that gains in muscle mass and strength in weightlifters was maximized when people consumed, as they call it, 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which, if you do the math, comes to 0.7 grams per pound. So is this the correct amount of protein for everybody who lifts weights? Probably not, because we're all different, but it is within the range of recommendations of most organizations. And if you were going to go with this amount, if you were a strength trainer and wanted to use this amount for weightlifting, what might that look like for you? So if we look at the amounts of protein and compare them to the RDA, we can see that 0.7 grams per pound is roughly 1.5 to 2 times that amount recommended by the recommended dietary allowance. Keep in mind, I'm not endorsing this amount for everybody because your health and the intensity of the exercise you do, and even the type of exercise you do, aerobic versus strength training, may dictate higher or lower amounts in this. However, this does give you something to compare against other recommendations you might see out there. So the research tends to show that some people may need more protein than is recommended by the RDA, but it's not as much as you may have heard about. How much protein do you use? Leave a comment below. Until next time, I'm Joe from SupplementClarity.com. Take care.